Inflation fell within the Reserve Bank's target of 3 to 6% in June for the first time since April 2022. On a month-to-month basis, consumer inflation was at 0.9% in July, compared to 0.2% the previous month. Economists say there's been moderation in food prices, particularly meat prices. But the spike in fuel prices on the cards for September could take CPI back to 5.5%. There's also been lower than expected electricity price increases, which contributed to the lowering of the inflation rate.
So the fall is more than what we expected. But it is important to note that from the experience of 2022, where we saw higher levels of average prices, when you compare to that year, you generally get inflation falling, so positive base effect is what we call them, and that has been supporting the pull in inflation in the opposite direction. I guess then we start to speak to the surprises on the data that in the data that we received today, and food inflation, for example, was slightly lower than what we expected. Fuel was in deflation even on a month-on-month basis.
Economists believe that the country has reached the peak as far as the interest rate hikes are concerned, and are optimistic that we are not likely to see another interest rate hike when the Monetary Policy Committee meets in September. Last month, the Reserve Bank paused hiking interest rates after raising them consistently since November 2021.
I think today's release will indeed be positive news from the point of view that the Reserve Bank would see that inflation has moderated well into the target band, and therefore I do believe that we have reached the plateau on interest rates, that we will not see a further hike in this current cycle.
The rand has strengthened after the announcement of the inflation rate slowing down, but economists predict that there's likely to be a slight reverse of the trend in headline inflation for the remainder of the year. Naledi Matlapeng, SABC News, Johannesburg.